Delighted to say, joining us on the line to discuss the first batch, essentially, of Premier League festive football that we've gotten this week is John Giles. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Richie.
Have you had a good Christmas?
Yeah, I did, Richie. Fairly quiet.
Yeah.
Not too much booze, but I enjoyed it.
Well, without wanting to bring, people behind the curtain too much on this, like we check in on one another just to see what we're going to, touch on in this segment. And the main thing that I came away from that chat earlier on, John, was thinking, does nobody else in your house get a look in with the telly with the amount of football that you've seen over the course of the last week or so?
That's about right, Richie.
Yeah, really? You're not a popular man then back home, no?
We haven't even got two tellies,
Here.
So we have to just go on the one. But my good lady's been with me a long time. She knows the score when the matches are on. She gets a book out and has a good read of it,
I'd say at this stage, I don't think there's any changing that dynamic really. I think it's been set in stone for a while. Exactly. It's too late. Well, come here. We'll start with what's most recent to us, and that is last night's victory for Manchester City away to Leeds, 3-1. Erling Haaland again with another couple of goals, bringing his tally to the season to 20. He's done that in the quickest ever time for a Premier League footballer in just 14 matches. Kevin De Bruyne also stood out last night for his performance against Leeds. I want to start on the Leeds side of things, John, because there was that period prior to the World Cup where we thought things looked to be on the up. There were a couple of late winners. Crescencio Somerville looked to be lifting them back towards mid-table. But now I think that result last night may have solidified worries that were already kind of deep inset in the Leeds psyche.
I think so. It was poor. Now, they were playing against a terrific team, probably, or maybe the Champions League winners this City. And City, as we know, with Haaland there as well. But I didn't think Leeds were good, despite that fact. I didn't think they played well. And I was amazed afterwards. I saw the post-match talk that he gave his manager, Jesse Marsch. Yeah. And far too complicated for my liking, Richie.
Yeah.
He was going here and there. And I mean, the fact was that, City were the better team. Leeds didn't play well. They deserved to lose maybe a little bit more than they did. And I think it's going to be a long haul for the Leeds and their supporters this season.
He said after the match, I was just reading his quotes there from his press conference. I know he spoke to Amazon afterwards where the game was being broadcast, but he said afterwards that there was a quality issue in the match. They're very good and have a lot of good players, and we wanted it to be a bit of a battle of attrition. And they, for 45 minutes odd until that Rodri goal just prior to half time, they were keeping it tight. But there is, I think, and he alluded to it as well, there was a bit of a lack of ambition on Leeds' behalf there, and that's the kind of role that they're going to find themselves in a lot of the time this season, is that they are, we've spoken about it before, John, like they've conceded goals for fun previously against sides that are much worse than Manchester City, whereas now they're kind of keeping it tight. They've got players like Tyler Adams in their midfield, but it is a worry for them from their point of view. It looks like it could be a long season.
I think the two central backs are not good enough, Richie, to be honest. But I think the overall, I mean, you were very kind to send me a copy of his statements after the match. And to be quite honest, I couldn't understand them. He was talking about, I don't know what the hell he was talking about in the match, which is not a good sign. The all-action Leeds side that we knew under Bielsa and with Marsch wasn't there at all. Now, they were playing a very good team, but they just didn't have it. I couldn't see it. I thought they were lucky to get away with the 3-1 result, to be quite honest. I mean, Haaland himself missed a couple of chances. But I'd like to see Leeds doing well, but I'd be worried about them for what if it means anything at all, Richie. I think they're going to have a very, very difficult season.
You look at their next two games, and it's Leeds, they're away to Newcastle, and then they're going to be at home to West Ham. Those are teams we would have presumed at the start of the season are going to be in and around it, but Newcastle, as we'll get to, I think eventually, are a different prospect this year. West Ham, obviously, bit of a patchy mixed bag so far this season, but they're just 2 points above the relegation zone. They've got a game in hand over the others around them, but still, it is concerning when you see those results like last night and the inability, I guess, to put forward a performance. But as you mentioned, Manchester City, imperious looking at times, particularly in the second half. I mean, Leeds did give them the openings for that. How impressed are you and have been by Haaland and his combination, I guess, with Kevin De Bruyne? They seem to be working perfectly together.
Definitely. I mean, he's world class. I mean, the amount of goals he's scoring, Richie, is incredible. I mean, he's one of those big lad, as we know, but he has the balance of a little fella, and is quick. You know, he's exceptionally quick, but he has this balance that he can, you know, we know he's left-footed, but he can go on his right foot as well. So, you know, if he's got half a chance of a race, he's in there and can finish well. I mean, a lot of strikers we've seen over the past of his size, the control wouldn't be good, and they'd get good headers and that to score goals. But this fella's balance is brilliant, and he's made the record start on the goal scoring, Richie. And then, like De Bruyne, I thought De Bruyne, to be honest, was man of the match yesterday. Now, I'm not always a fan of his, Richie. I think he gets onto his fellow players a little bit too much, a bit temperamental in what he was doing and what he does most of the time. But last night, I thought he was man of the match, despite the fact that Haaland scored the 2 goals. I thought he was brilliant last night. Got on with the game. No shouting at or making things at his own players, which he does at times. If he's given a bad ball, it's somebody else's fault. But anyway, last night I thought he was brilliant, and I would have put him above even Haaland last night in man of the match. I thought he was terrific.
That's the midfielder.
But Haaland is Haaland. He's going to score. If he keeps injury free, Richie, as we know, I think he's going to break all the records scoring.
Like, we're talking about Premier League records and all that kind of stuff, and people obviously get bogged down in that football only starting in 92 kind of rhetoric, but he is playing at such a level and converting chances to such a degree that there are records that would predate your days, John, that he's actually zeroing in on now. That's how good we're talking.
Oh yeah. He's made a record start to the season.
Yeah.
You know, nobody scored as many goals as he has with the amount of games they've played, and he obviously seems to be a good lad. He's a team player. He'll do it, and he's playing in a good team, as we know, Richie. And if like he has to depend on De Bruyne and all the Manchester City players to make the goals for him, but they have plenty of players there that can make goals, and all he has to do is finish them off. And that's been not being fair on him, because he's a brilliant
great finisher.
He scores some spectacular goals as well.
Well, he'll score spectacular goals, but he'll end up like sticking his toe out. Like, there was one of them last night where he essentially will dive for the ball and kind of get a side foot on it, but do enough and get enough power on it to get it past the goalkeeper without much worry about it trickling over the line. Like, he's able to score all kinds of goals. Have you ever seen a finisher comparable to him, John?
I don't think I have. I've never seen anybody as big as him, physically big lad like him, being so nimble and quick.
Yeah.
You know, like they usually have one of the other strikers. You know, they're usually big lads, not so good on the ground, good headers, but he has everything. You know, I mean, he's good in the air. His positional sense is good. He can take it with his right foot or his left foot. And he has the players around him there, as we know at Manchester City, De Bruyne, Foden when he plays, few players that will be making goals for him. And obviously, any striker needs people to make the goals for them. What the thing they have to do is score them. And so far, he's done it brilliantly. And I think he could only get better, Richie, as it goes along.
It's worrying, isn't it? Almost for other teams.
Well, it is for the opposition, not for Pep or Manchester City supporters. No, he's been and he seems a really good lad.
Yeah.
As well, you know, there's nothing big-headed about him. When he scores a goal, he goes to his colleagues and that. No, he seems a real pro.
Does that come from having somebody like his dad, who would have been involved obviously in the game and is a former Leeds player, obviously enough, having that behind you and having somebody to kind of keep your feet level and tell you what to expect from the profession, not just from game to game, but what to expect in life as a professional footballer? Having that guide, you'd imagine, would only be a help to a player like him.
Yeah, as long as the father's okay.
By all accounts, I think he is. I'm
not telling him, but I've seen it before. But I've seen players, and really good players, you know, spoil their kids, or sometimes expect too much from them. You know, you don't know. Nobody knows what the parents are like.
Sure.
But his father was a really good pro, and a really good guy. I never knew him. I never met him. But he's obviously, whatever he's done so far is right, and he hasn't spoiled them. And you know, he's only 22 now, but he's going in the right direction. And I think this particular father has done a good job on him.
Yeah, what's the best? It's a stupid question because ultimately there's going to be no stopping somebody who's that good. But what is the best route towards curtailing somebody like Erling Haaland? Is it to man mark him? Do you make sure the supply lines are cut off? Because he is going to come up against teams that are, with all due respect, better than Leeds. So how do those teams go about shutting him down?
Well, that's it's the only way of stopping him scoring goals, Richie. If they can stop the Bruyne and Haaland and these lads, stop making the goals. Do you know what I mean? He's a finisher, so he has to depend on people making the goals for him to finish. And there's no good saying, well, this is what we're going to do about this guy. You know, because you got to stop the guys making the goals, because once these fellas make the goals, it's impossible to mark the likes of Haaland. You know what I mean? You can't stay with Haaland as a defender, right? If he's pulling you wide and there's a big gap straight to the goal, do you know what I mean, Richie?
Yeah.
You have to cover that, and that's what lets Haaland in with his colleagues. So if you stay with Haaland all the time, stop him scoring, then De Bruyne or Foden or any of the others will be scoring. You just can't do that, you know.
I want to touch on a team that perhaps we don't touch on a hell of a lot in this section, John, because I know you made it a point of wanting to praise them, and they have had, thus far anyway, a fantastic season, and that's Fulham. A 3-0 win for them most recently against Crystal Palace. They're doing well in the table. You see them there in and around 9th. They've had some good results so far this season, and Marco Silva seems to have done a particularly good job there so far.
I think he's done a great job, Richie.
Yeah.
You know, Fulham came up, as we know, only last year. And when you look at the team, most of the teams that come up are struggling. They struggle every year when they come up. You know, this fella is way above half table. He's done a fantastic job. He hasn't spent a lot of money. Actually, Notts Forest was spent quite a bit of money, and they're way down there.
Yeah.
But this Marco Silva is very quiet about his job. You never see him mouthing off, saying things, stupid things. He gets on with the job. He's got on with the job really well. I thought he did a fantastic job getting Fulham up, but I honestly thought that he'd go straight down again.
Yeah.
That hasn't been the case. Without spending the money as well, he's done a fantastic job.
I think what's most impressive, if you go through their squad, like you look at, obviously Mitrovic is one of his case in points, Decordova Reid is another, but there are plenty of players still in that squad that not only came up with Fulham last year, but went down the previous time they were in the Premier League. So that kind of experience has stuck with them, but they have a manager now who's built belief behind them that they can actually go and get results against decent teams. And Crystal Palace, make no mistake about it, because the players they have at their disposal are a decent team, and they're going to continue to take points off these big sides, you'd imagine, throughout the season.
It was a great job. Great job. I mean, to be able to do that, it has to be good management.
Yeah.
I mean, some lads are lucky to can take a team over, and they have a lot of really, really good players that haven't done as well as they should have done, and he does a good job that way. I mean, this lad, Marco Silva, hasn't taken over, you know, outstanding players. As you say, Mitrovic is a good goal scorer. Actually, the last time he was in the Premiership, he didn't score many goals at all. But to do what he's done, doing what he's, you know, to have them at this position more than halfway through the season, is a fantastic job.
And to have rehabilitated his career, I guess, as well, having been at Everton and things not going his way while he was there as well, is something that stands to him too.
There's nobody going to Everton and doing anything, Richie, not for a while anyway.
Well, that's where I was going next, John.
Right.
Because, yeah,
okay.
Because you look at the result and the manner of the results, the 2 on defeat, conceding in the 5th minute of added time, but never really looking like they were going to win that game themselves. It is a worrying position for Frank Lampard and Everton to be in at the moment. They're just above the drop zone. They're a point above the relegation zone, and they look like they're going to be there for a while, if not even lower, because that seems like a club, not just like a first 11, but a club that is completely bereft of confidence at the minute.
Oh, they're in big trouble, Richie. I mean, Lampard is first of all, the crowd are on to him. It was a bad result for them at Wolves and over the Christmas there. But also, I see in the paper he was offering the goalkeeper, a 5-year contract, and that's been held back by the directors. And that's a bad sign, you know. I mean, if Lampard, managers really getting to do the job are allowed to make decisions like that. So I think he's in a very, very dangerous position. I think if they don't pick up straight away, I think it could be gone in a couple of weeks' time.
But you like, as you mentioned there, even if he is to go, and there's nothing to say that he is or he isn't at the minute, but even if he was to go, you're looking at that squad and you're kind of wondering who or what would actually get the most out of what's there, because it's very, very thin gruel in terms of what's available to whatever manager is going to be involved at Everton. And by all accounts, there ain't much money to spend either, because they've got their Bromley-Moore Dock Stadium being built at the moment, so concentration is going to be on that, obviously, enough as it was. We'll remember what Arsenal, say, 20 years ago. But you're looking at it and it seems to be this spiral downwards, and there doesn't seem to be any stopping it.
No, I think he's in a very dangerous position. I mean, I think he was booed at the end of the match against Wolves. I mean, Wolves won the match and only got off the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
And so the supporters would definitely be in a position there where they think, well, we have a chance to do something here, get 3 points. Hasn't happened. So, supporters get very impatient. But, I think you're right. I don't think there's money there for him to be bringing in players at all. I think the players he has at the moment are the players that are either going to make it for him or break it for him. I don't think he's going to get any money to spend.
Yeah. Football and Off the Ball, of course, brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. And we mentioned Nottingham Forest there. They were Manchester United's opponents during the week. A 3-0 win for United. It looked fairly simple from United's perspective, but these are the kind of games that would have caused slip-ups previously, started this season, end of last, whereby you would have thought that United could be getting by at Nottingham Forest fairly handily enough and they'd make a hames of it. They didn't this time around. Looked fairly comfortable.
No, I think it's not a coincidence that Ronaldo's gone, to be quite honest, Richie. I think he was doing more harm than good in that particular club. And you saw the comments he made when he was leaving. I mean, he was having the right go at the new manager and that. I think that you'll get a team spirit now from Manchester United. I think they will get together. I mean, Ronaldo's been a great player. There's no doubt about that. He's been a great player, one of the best ever. But I don't think he was good at this stage, at this time, for Manchester United.
And you look at what Ten Hag is managing to do. Like, he's even reintegrated people like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, whose career at United looked to be heading only downhill. He's gotten back in there ahead of Diogo Dalot, who's going to come back obviously enough after the World Cup, after a bit of a delay. But like, he's rehabilitating players, he's given players chances. Garnacho has looked impressive coming off the bench. They're going to have Bruno Fernandes being more of a starring role. Obviously now he's got Ronaldo out of the way. The one worry for them, and I know United fans are a bit upset, I guess, when they saw Cody Gakpo, who was a target and a long-term target for Manchester United, signing for Liverpool this season, is that they can't really afford to dither in the transfer market. Ten Hag said he's looking for a striker, obviously, because they need one. With one body gone out the door, they need another one. Would you see that as a priority for them, that they need to kind of act quickly in January, or is there much reinforcement that they actually do need there?
Well, it's very hard to know what's happening behind the scenes, Richie. I mean, obviously, he's been in the game long enough to, I want that guy straight away. But he needs the backing of the owners to do it. Do you know what I mean? If he says, look, I really want this guy, the owner says, well, he's a bit too expensive, we're bargaining, we're doing this, we're doing that. And they might not see the importance of what the player is to the manager or coach, wherever he is there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like when Ferguson was there, if he wanted a player, he got him straight away. So there's always, like, in a position that Ten Hag is in, we don't know. We assume that he's saying to the directors, I want this guy, and if we have to pay 60 million for him or whatever it is, we have to do it. They'd have people in the direction say, no, we're not paying 60 million. We want to try and get him for 40 million, and then they finish up losing him. Yeah. That can happen. Obviously, as far as the manager is concerned, right, it's no difference to him whether they pay 50 or 60 million. Do you know what I mean, Richie?
He just wants the player.
But you have to have somebody, like, I think in Ferguson's day, if he was, when he was dealing with the owners and that, and he said, well, they'd say, well, this guy's a bit expensive at 20 million in those days. No, he said, well, that's what I want. and he'd get him. So it's fun for Ten Hag. Ten Hag, it might take a little bit longer for him to get a bit more successful.
Yeah.
That you can see this fella's coming on. It's very hard to know what's behind the scenes.
It's complicated, I guess, by the fact that they're trying to sell the club as well, and that's an active thing that's going on. So kind of attention will be elsewhere.
We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But as far as the manager's concerned, if he wants the player, he's not really bothered whether they play 20 or 30 or 40 million for him. All he wants is the player.
Yeah. I want to touch on Arsenal before we go, John, because I think a lot of people would have seen them go 1-0 down to West Ham in their first game back after the World Cup and go, all right, here we go. Here's where Arsenal start falling off. And from that point onwards, they only looked stronger. And this is, the deeper we go, kind of, I don't want to say that they're similar in terms of stature, they're certainly not. But it's certainly reminding me of the Leicester situation of a few years ago, whereby people thought that they'd fall away, and they got to a certain point where they just didn't, and they kept going. Do you regard Arsenal as genuine contenders for this title? I do,
yeah. Actually, I think Arsenal have far better players than Leicester had at that particular time. Yeah. Leicester did a great job. They were good team spirit in that. But I think the young players that Arteta has, Martinelli and guys like Saka, really, really top class players. I think they were unlucky that they've lost Jesus in the World Cup.
Yeah,
Richie. But I see in the paper there, if you're talking about getting transfers, it looks like Arsenal he has the confidence of the board there, or the owners, Arteta, because they seem to be going out of their way, Richie, to get a player in for them, and it doesn't seem to be bothering. The money doesn't seem to be bothering them, because Arteta's done a really good job. He's got a chance of winning the league. Maybe 2 years ago they wouldn't be backing him the way they seem to back him now to get the player in that he wants, but which is a good sign. But I thought they were really, really excellent against West Ham the other day.
Yeah, Mikhailo Mudryk is the guy coming in from Shakhtar Donetsk, it would seem. But there's, I think the complaint that was always thrown Arsenal's way, from Wenger's last few years through the last 5, is that they don't have any resilience and that they're a bit weak. That's not an issue, it seems, anymore. And once you park that, you have the players in attack like Martinelli, like Bukayo Saka, even like Odegaard creating from midfield.
Yeah.
If you've got the resilience at the back and the ability to cut through sides, you're sucking diesel in terms of being able to challenge for titles.
Oh yeah, no, I think they're genuine challengers, and I think they're being unlucky. They've got to get a centre forward again now, because Jesus was doing a great job for them, and that's just unlucky because he got injured playing in the World Cup. But I think Arteta has the confidence of the players now, and I think he has the confidence of the owners to back him when he really needs to be backed.
Do you think they need much in terms of additions in January? Because you go through the squad and midfield seems fine, defence seems fine. It's really only in those attacking areas that maybe they might need a couple extra more bodies. Yeah,
well, as you say, overall they're good. And they're a very young team, Richard. I thought they were really good against West Ham. West Ham scored first, and it was put up to them, and they did it under pressure, which is very good. So I think that if Arteta gets what he wants, and it looks that way at the moment, that I think he'll get the players in that he wants. I think the board will back him, or the owners will back him in that.
It's going to make for a fascinating couple of months to see how this top 4 shakes out, because Arsenal have thrown the cat amongst the pigeons by challenging for the title. You've had people like Liverpool drop points and now are in a battle for the top 4. So you're talking about, the Newcastles of this world are looking up and possibly challenging for the title themselves. It's going to make for a brilliant run-in.
I think it'd be great. I mean, Newcastle have done extremely. Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
He's done extremely well. He spent some money, but he hasn't spent an awful lot of money. But whatever he's done well. He's getting the best of Almiron now. He's scoring goals at lad, and he didn't look like he was going to make it.
Yeah.
They haven't spent a lot of money, but they spent it well, and they obviously have a good spirit. I didn't think they'd last, but it's getting up there around the top 4 in them. But they have done so. But in the Liverpool situation, Richie, I know you're not putting them out of the picture.
Yeah.
But they're not that far behind them now, and there's still a long way to go. And they're actually buying players now.
They are,
yeah. You wouldn't, with them selling the club, you would think that they weren't going to do that. But they are doing it, and they're doing it in a big way. So Liverpool could make a challenge from the position they're in.
Historically under Klopp they tend to have good second halves of the seasons as well, and now they've had this added bonus of a little break for a lot of their players too, so you wouldn't back against them making the top four now, particularly if Gakpo can settle in.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I wouldn't put them out of going all the way, Richie.
Here we go. It's going to be an interesting 5-6 months. John Giles, thanks so much for joining us this evening, and I want to wish you, not only from everybody in the team here but all the listeners as well, a very happy 2023 to you. Thanks
very much, Richie, and same to you and all our listeners.
John, thanks
all the best.
Cheers.
And Happy New Year.